So in this video I'm going to show you how to do this faux ribbing that I've done for my sweater design in issue 6 of the Journals of Scottish Yarn. So it's not technically true ribbing because it hasn't got any stretch or anything, it is purely just decorative. And before we actually start this faux ribbing section, you need to have done a bit of decreasing to get to the correct stitch count to get the cuff slightly narrower, because unlike traditional ribbing, if you use slip stitch ribbing or knitted ribbing, which oftentimes automatically pulls in because the tension is different, the tension for this is exactly the same as the stitch we've used for the main part of the sweater, i.e. half double crochet, which is a UK half treble. Therefore we have to manually decrease, do a lot of decreasing or reasonable amount of decreasing before we start to make the cuff. So that how much you need to decrease is written in the pattern. So I've done that section, that part already, done the decreasing to get to the correct stitch count for this faux ribbing. So the faux ribbing, you need to make sure you have an even stitch count because it is a 2-stitch pattern repeat. So again, you'll just need to make sure you got the correct stitch count. I finished here with a round of single crochet decreases to get to the correct stitch count. I'm going to chain 2, so I'm on the single crochet round or UK double crochet round that I did was actually on the wrong side. I've done a chain 2, and now this first round of your faux ribbing needs to be on the right side of the work. So I've done a chain 2, that is not counting as a stitch. Now I need to read what's happened here at the end of the last row, because remember I've just turned the work around to the other side. So that little thing there is my slip stitch, I'm going to ignore that. Next one is this last single crochet or UK double that I made of the previous round. So I'm going to go into there. Remember I did a yarn over first for a half double or UK half treble, and I'm going through both loops, pulling up a loop. I've got 3 yarn overdrill of 2, so that's just a normal half double UK half treble. So I'm going to go ahead and put one of those on half double into each stitch from the previous round. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you back. I'll meet you back at the start or end of the round. Going back to the start of the round and working into the last stitch, which is where this chain 2 is coming out of. And then what I would recommend is just do a quick stitch count to make sure you have still got the correct number of stitches and that you have an even number of stitches. And then you're ready to join with a slip stitch in the first half double that you made. So remember, we're ignoring the chain 2. This is our first half double, this is the top of the half double, and I'm slip stitching into there. Hold the live loop with your index finger onto the hook and pull it up and away from the work to really tighten off that slip stitch before readjusting the live loop. So you should have something that's looking like this. Again, coming up to the end of the round and slip stitch join into the first half double I made. Ignore the chain 2. There's my first half double. Remember, the top of the half double falls really far to the right. If you want a little bit of extra tuition on crocheting half double crochet in a round, I do have a separate video for that goes into this in a bit more depth. Okay, so that is the end of round 2 of our ribbed cuff. So we're now on to round 3 of our faux rib cuff. So you're going to chain 2, turn the work to the right side, and it's this side now, this third round, where we're going to start the texture of the faux rib, and we're going to be doing some front post stitches, and they are going to be treble crochet front post treble crochet stitches, which in British terminology is front post double treble. So it's basically yarn over 2. You're going to find the first stitch from the very first round you did. So previous one was round 2, this is round 1. Easy enough to find the first stitch because the first bit you've got here is a chain 2, which we ignore, and then you've got your first stitch right next to it. So you're actually going to go between the chain 2 and that first stitch, round the back of the post, pull up a loop, give it space, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 2. So that's your first treble or UK double treble. Yarn over, tilt the work, this edge of the work towards you so you can see what's going on, because you need to skip a stitch and work into the next stitch. So remember, you got that is your slip stitch join there, so you don't count that because you've got your chain 2 there, you've got your slip stitch join from the previous round, you've got the first stitch, so the skip, that's the skip stitch you're skipping, so this is the stitch you're working into, half double into there. So yarn over, pull up a loop, you've got 3, yarn over, draw off all 3. Now we're just going to be alternating with front post trebles or front post double trebles if you're using UK terminology, and half doubles, and or if you're using UK terminology as half trebles. So yarn over 2, skip in this very first row, which is 2 rows down, so 1 row down, 2 row down, skip that next half double, and then you're going to work round the back of the next half double, pull up a loop and give yourself a little bit of space there. Don't literally pull the loop up and then try and make the stitch, because your stitches will be too tight. Give it a bit of room from your work. Yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 2. And even there where I was fiddling around, maybe I've done that a little bit too tight, but anyway, we'll see. Yarn over, skip a stitch into the next stitch, half double, 2 yarn overs, skip a stitch from row 1, round 1, and go round the back of the post of the next stitch. Give it some space. Yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 2, skip a stitch at the back, half double into the next. So here you can see how it's already, we're only not finished yet. Obviously we've got another 2 rounds after this, or however many rounds you want depending on how deep your cuff is, but you can already see how that's starting to form a nice texture there. Let's do a few more before I leave you to get on with it. Yarn over, draw off 2, back to this first round, skip 1, round the back of the next one, pull up a loop, giving yourself plenty of space, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, skip a stitch into the next one, half double, and then your front post treble, skip a stitch, half double, skip a stitch from row 1, round the back of the next stitch with your front post treble, skip a stitch, half, skip a stitch from round 1, front post treble, skip a stitch, half. So let's have a little look. Keep checking if it's starting to slant in a weird way, or one way or the other. The chances are that you have either not skipped a stitch or you've skipped too many on the back. It's actually quite easy to read from the back once you've put a few in. Here you can clearly see skipped one, skipped one, skipped one, etc. If you check the back, you can soon see if you've made a mistake somewhere. So there you can see the basic principle of this round 3. So I'm going to go ahead now and finish off this round 3, and I'll meet you back when I'm ready to finish off this round. So I've just made the last half double, because remember I started with a front post treble and then a half double, so it's always pairs, these 2 pairs of stitches, or this 1 pair of stitches that we're doing all the way round, and then you're going to join with a slip stitch into the top of this first front post treble that you made. So follow the post up, and it's the front loop and back loop directly above there, or more slightly to the right always. And again, tighten off that slip stitch by putting your finger on the live loop, pulling up and away, and then re-tightening. So here you can see the first 3 rounds, and we have got 2 rounds left for this particular design. Obviously you could do more rounds if you wanted a deeper cuff. So chain 2, so what round are we on now? Round 4. Chain 2, turn the work to the wrong side, and then again this is a nice easy round with just doing 1 half double or half trebles in each stitch. So remember to skip that first one because that was your slip stitch join at the end of the round, and you're going to put 1 stitch into each, 1 half double, which is a UK half treble, into each. So you can't really tell from the back so much, but obviously 1 stitch is going into the front post treble, and then 1 stitch is going into the front post treble rather, and 1 stitch is going into the half double. But you don't need to know which is which, you're literally just putting 1 in each. So nice and straightforward. I'll meet you back at the end of this round. Coming back to the start of the round and into the last stitch. Remember, if in doubt, if you're not sure whether that stitch needs to go there or not, you need to count your stitches and make sure that you've got the right stitch count. So here you can see I've just finished this round. I'm going to ignore the chain 2, and then I'm going to slip stitch join in the top of this first half double. See how far to the right the top of that stitch is. Tighten up your slip stitch, chain 2, and turn the work to the right side. So here you can see now what this is looking like, just that plain round. We're ready to do the last round for my particular design. As I said, you can add, once you've done that first half double round, from then on it's always just 2 rounds for each stitch pattern. Repeat. Okay, so remember with this we start off straight away with our front post treble, or UK terminology front post double treble. Yarn over twice, and nice and easy this time because you're literally just finding the first front post stitch you made 2 rows down, and you're literally, I like to actually pick it up with my thumb and my middle finger so that I can get the hook in there behind it, pull up a loop, and again give yourself a bit of space, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 2. I always find that people don't give themselves enough space for these, and they end up puckering the work because the stitches are much too short. Skip a stitch, half double in the next, yarn over twice, front post treble, UK double treble around the next front post. So actually maybe this one is, I over exaggerated a little bit. If you know me by now, then you'll know that I often pull things out if I'm not happy, especially with clothing. So I think it's little things that are not right with clothing means I'm probably never going to wear it. If it's a blanket or something, don't really care. I mean, this could be a nice trim on a blanket too. Skip a stitch, half double into the next one, double treble front post double treble around the next one, skip a stitch, half double, front post front post treble around the next. This is the problem with doing both British and American. I get my words muddled up, so it's better just to watch what I'm doing mainly. So you can see how those are stacking up now. I think you need at least 2 sets of these to get the rib effect. And this is the final round of my ribbing. So what I need to be really careful about is this live loop on my hook. I really want to be keeping that live loop nice and tight so that the top of this last round is looking really neat. So this round is really simple. It's just that 2 stitch pattern repeat, skipping, half double, front post treble with a bit of space, skip a stitch, half double, and just making sure that this top edge is looking really super neat. If this is looking messy, all that's happening is this live loop, the loop on the hook, you're just allowing that to get completely baggy, or you're losing control of it as you make the next stitch. So I'm really over exaggerating there, but here you can see what happens if you lose control of that live loop. So if this edge is looking uneven, that's most likely what's gone wrong there. You don't have to have the loop really tight, you just have to keep it exactly the same size on the hook here. So these other loops, although you know you're going to need to lengthen them to give yourself a bit of room, but you need to make sure you're keeping that live loop, that's what that loop there, the first loop on the hook, that needs to be kept same size as the hook in order to keep. So you can see here on some of these longer stitches, as you're forming the stitch, you can see here it's quite easy to lose control, and then that ends up being a little bit baggy. I think that's just about acceptable. It's only a short distance. I'll finish it off and then I'll decide whether I'm happy with that. Because I've also already made one cuff, obviously part of my process now is going to be comparing this cuff to the cuff I've already made, that I made on a different day and might have had slightly different tension, just to make sure I'm happy that they kind of match. And if not, I'll have to think about what I can do to actually match them. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead now and I'll meet back when we're ready to fasten off. So I've made the last front post treble, skip a stitch into half double into the last stitch, and now for this I'm actually going to finish with a sewn bind off, just because this is the cuff and I want it to look nice. So cut the yarn, pull the tail end, pull the live loop out completely until the tail end pops out. Does seem a bit daunting, that. I'm actually going to use a hook for this rather than a needle. Turn the work to the wrong side, and now I need to identify the top of the first this first front post treble that I made. Okay, I'm not going to work into that. I'm actually going to work into the first half double that I made, because I need to skip a stitch for this because I'm making a mock stitch. So I've skipped the first stitch and I've gone front loop, back loop, front loop from this side. Obviously from the front that'll be front loop, back loop, through that stitch, grab the yarn, pull it through. This last stitch I made here, I'm going to come up through that back ridge and then through this front loop from the back, or back loop from the front. So coming up through the top of the stitch, that's obviously where you'd never normally go with your crochet hook. Normally grab the yarn, pull it through, and what you'll notice is that has made a mock stitch, and so the whole thing flows in a lovely continuous method. And now that does need sewing in, but I just want to check how this compares to the other cuff I made. Now the problem I've got is that because this is a sample and I've been using this to write my pattern, I have actually washed and blocked this. I washed and blocked the whole sleeve, the whole body with one sleeve to get accurate measurements before I made the second sleeve. So I think actually, although, so you can see how this, because this is wool, not plastic acrylic yarn, this is proper wool. from sheep, obviously, how it's got this beautiful bloom, and it sort of softens the stitches quite a bit, and sort of the yarn does tend to sort of mesh together a bit. That's why, you know, I'm a massive advocate for using natural fibres and not plastic acrylic yarns, because you just can't get the same effect. So I think that's pretty much similar, and then hopefully, well, I know that once I've washed and blocked this, it will have this same softened and sort of slightly blended look. Anyway, hope you found that useful. Obviously, as I said, this is very specific to my pattern, but obviously it's pretty straightforward to adapt that to your own design, whatever you're making. And this can also be used as a hem, especially if you're making a sort of blouson style sweater. And if you didn't do any decreasing, then obviously this is also a really nice way to border a blanket or something. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. If you have a go, or you want to ask me any questions, or you know, if you've got any comments, I always love to hear from you. Please help to support my channel and help me to produce more free crochet content by liking, sharing, subscribing, dropping me a comment, and if you found anything particularly useful, I always appreciate someone buying me a coffee. So I've put my link for my Ko-fi in the caption as well. Thank you very much.